With that, we are broadcasting, defer to the chair.
Okay, so I call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. In attendance, Chair Joe Harper,
Vice Chair James Burkham.
Stephanie Nicholas, Harris here.
Okay, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Thanks, Sarah, for getting them out to everybody. February 20th, any discussion?
I have just a note for consistency in these minutes, whether we're referring to either first name or by title, Mr. or Ms. And I was thinking under section 2, just to make that consistent with the rest of the minutes.
Okay,
You see where I'm referring to?
yes, I see exactly.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor of approving the minutes as corrected by, okay, aye, unanimous. The minutes of March 20th. Any comments, additions, corrections? Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there any general public comment that does not pertain to any of the matters of reports tonight? Anybody from the,
We have an applicant online.
you have, okay, all right. All right, so we'll skip that. I'd like to, because we have a lot of guests here tonight, to skip the correspondence communications part until after the presentations of the certificate applications. Is that fine, everybody? Okay. All right, so 10 Fruit Street. You want to introduce yourself and why we're here is the applicant at 10 Fruit applied for a certificate of appropriateness for a mini split system, specifically that had some exterior ductwork. We had some concerns about that at the last meeting, and the issue was continued to today. So you're on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. For the record, Lisa Mead, Telemet Class of 30 Green Street, Newburyport. And with me this evening is my colleague, Ryan Clemens, and architect on the project with Andy Sidford's office is Brendan Roach. And he's the one that has worked up the design that we're going to show you in a minute. Just for background, because I don't think this necessarily went through the first time. If you could go to the next slide, Andy. So the property, of course, is in the R3 zoning district. It's in the Fruit Street Historic District, and therefore is subject to an issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the changes that have been proposed to the structure that are actually already in existence. And I think that it's important to note, of course, given what we're showing, that some of what has been installed is not within the public view. So we're going to talk about that when we go through and try to address the items that are within the public view as required under the commission's regulations. So if you could go to that. So the first slide is a head-on view of 10 Fruit Street. So as you come down Fruit Street from High Street, this is on the left-hand side, almost to the end. It's a third house up from the end. It's a half house, and here's your front view. And go to the next slide, please. And this is a view looking up, and you can see the ductwork on the front corner that's been installed. There's 2 pieces of ductwork that come up from the bottom and kind of take a little bit of a curve at the top. From this view, I think it's fair to say that you can't see anything else that has been installed. In particular, there is I'm not going to call it the right thing. I'm going to call it an air handler, but that's not what it is. A condenser, there you go. That's in the back, is behind a fence and then behind some bushes. So you can't see that. And then
Can I just interrupt? Because there is, if you zoom in a little bit, you can see the rear ductwork coming down from.
Yeah, I hadn't gotten there yet, but yes. So you can, and I think I'd like to talk about that as we get through.
Okay.
as we get through this a little bit. So I think in different angles, you might be able to see that rear ductwork. I said, but I also think that there's a tree there that's not yet in bloom that makes it also difficult and has some shading or screening that provides for that rear ductwork. So as we go through it, I think that we should probably talk about that a little bit. So I think those are the three items that we want to address. And then again, like in this view from the street, you can't see it, and obviously you can see the ductwork in the front. Next slide, please. So what we have proposed here is a wooden box painted to match the siding. And also the box is formed so that it fits within the siding as well. There's probably a technical word for that, Brendan.
Squeeding?
Scribe.
No, it's scribed, yeah.
Correct. So it fits right in there, and it looks like a wooden downspout, which, as we'll show you later on, in the photographs, is quite consistent throughout the neighborhood. And so what would happen is actually the two pieces of existing ductwork would be moved closer together, and then they would all be encased within that one piece of wooden casing that would look like a wooden downspout. Okay. Next slide. So in reviewing your requests for certificates of appropriateness, of course, the commission considers the historic and architectural value and significance of the building. Of course, we don't have any dispute about that. The general design, proportions, detailing, mass, arrangement, texture, materials, the exterior architectural features of that structure and how what is being proposed impacts that, and the relation to the exterior architectural features or similar features in buildings and structures in the surrounding area. We believe that this project meets each of those design principles. First, the project retains and preserves the historic character of the property because the only exterior alterations are placing the vents within that single wooden gutter, and which is similar and will be wood and painted, excuse me, to match the rest of the home. The change is minimal and consistent with historic gutters on the other homes in the district. The project therefore preserves the property's historic character and recognizes the property as a physical record. You'll be able to tell what it is. The project avoids destroying historic materials, features, and spatial relationships. Again, it places the vent within a physically and visually non-obtrusive wood gutter on the side of the home. And the gutter is a long, simple wood box with simple attachment points designed appropriate for the home, fitting in with the appropriate connection at the top eave area, and then obviously down the side of the home. It also conforms to the applicable design guidelines that you have. You have the regulations as well as the guidelines, where it says HVAC equipment, including ducts and associated mounting devices, should be as small and inconspicuous as possible and installed in locations which either create the least disturbance to the appearance of the building, involve the fewest structural alterations, are screened, hidden, or otherwise shielded from view to the greatest extent possible. And we think that with all of the items that I've shown you, we've done that both with the wooden boxes. You can't see the condenser at all. I can't get that word out, that condenser at all. And we believe that the rear ductwork is screened by that tree probably 9 to 10 months of the year anyway, and it's difficult to see at the angle from the street, even when it's not. So we believe that the guidelines are addressed as well as the principles of the project. So I also wanted to just show you, so here are homes on the same side of the street, and we have photographs of them because they all have some feature that is similar to what is being proposed here to cover up this ductwork. So if you go to the next slide, please. So here you see this is 6 Fruit Street, and they have the wooden gutter down the front of the house. Next slide, please. And then here again is 6 Fruit Street, so you can see the angle of it. Of course, everybody has our fabulous electricity going into the building. Next slide, please. And here's 4 Fruit Street, and you see the gutter on the corner of the house. Next slide, please. And then here's 4, it's the other angle of it. Interesting, of course, this is not painted the same color as the main part of the house, but is, obviously similar to the corner boards. Next slide. 2 Fruit Street, again, you have a gut, and this is more of a gutter as opposed to a wood box, but anyway, it comes down the front and is.
There are 2 wood boxes, they're just
Okay.
painted the same color, so it's hard to see in the shadow.
Correct.
Okay,
At the, at either edge of that, facade.
thank you. Ryan's the one that took, so he was out. And they are painted, as Ryan said, the same color as the house as well. Next slide, please. And then here's 16 Fruit Street, and you can see, the wood, downspout on the side of the house as well. So with that, we believe we've met the guidelines. I've gone through them, I won't go through them again. And we're happy to answer any questions, and we'd request the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness, and then we can get the boxes put on.
Thank you. I'd like to just open it up for public comment at this point. Is there anybody either in the room or out there that wants to add anything? Okay, so maybe we should just open it up for some discussion and clarification. I just wanted to add some factual points here to the presentation. First of all, I like what you're proposing, but I have some questions about the design of the boxes. The number 4 box, at number 4, it's 6 inches wide by 4.5 inches deep. And it's 14.5 inches from the corner of the structure. The number 6 one is 6 inches wide by 4.5 deep, similar, but it's only 11 inches from the corner. What you're proposing, I think, is close enough for me. It's 7.5 inches wide and 5.25 inches deep. I don't know though how far from the corner of the structure is the front, the left edge of the box would be. It's not on the plans.
Yeah, it's about, so it might be just over a foot from the.
Okay, so, and is there any reason why you are scribing the box? All the other gutter boxes are enclosed 4 sides. They hang straight down. The scribing to me just doesn't come across as authentic as a wooden box. Is there any way that those line sets could be run just straight through an enclosed box on 4 sides?
So the thought process with it being up was to have it flush up against the wall and to not have to go through and remove the siding and clear that out and then have to have the box up against the wall. This would speed up the process and materials and being able to have it just only 3 sides and have it right up against the existing exterior of the building.
So can I ask a question just to clarify your question? So the other ones, what you're saying is the box hangs free, so to speak, right?
It's
It's not built into.
Correct.
Right, and so you want to know whether or not this could just be covered so that it's not built in at all. And is flush.
Well, none of them are flush.
Well, right, but you've got, what's behind the?
You're talking about putting a board on the back of this 3-sided box,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
You're talking fully enclosed, pulled off from the exterior side.
They're not saying it has to be fully enclosed, right? You're saying 3 sides?
No, I was saying, I'm not saying it has to be. I'm saying my preference would be to make it as similar to the other structures as possible, and the other structures are 4-sided boxes. And I'm just wondering why the line sets couldn't just run through a 4-sided box rather than a scribed. I mean, that just looks a little bit,
Can you guys hear me by chance?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, great. I totally agree with Joe.
So that's Leslie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know my neighbor.
That's the homeowner. So Leslie, you would prefer if the construction can happen that way, not to have it scribed and just to have the four-sided box.
Right, now, let me ask you this question. We would not, it would just be, the siding, it would just be over the siding. We don't have to do anything with the siding, right? It would just be running down.
Correct.
Again, this
Yeah.
is just my, we haven't heard from the rest of the group either, but this is just my, I'm just kind of leading off.
I think that makes complete sense. And when I first looked at the plans, I thought that's what I was looking at, and then I saw the profile, which is on the lower left-hand corner, and thought, wait a second, are we scribing it? I'm not sure about that, yeah. So I agree with Joe.
That will push the structure a little further out. The width of whatever they're gonna build this box out of. So for instance, when you're looking at this, am I correct to say that when this was designed, you designed it so that the front of the downspout, this is a wooden downspout we're talking about, is flush with the bottom of the gutter? Not only this way, but from the front of the gutter?
It was with the space that was given, it ended up aligning with the gutter.
Right, so in fact, by putting it into a square box, it is gonna push it out of the gutter,
It's kind of,
push it to the front.
oh, so
Sit-
it
the
won't
gutter-
drop straight down from the gutter? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
it won't, it'll be out.
Hmm.
But whether that's significant, you're gonna build it out of what? Wood?
One by, right?
Just, yeah, one by.
It's a one by whatever you're gonna do.
One by wood trim, yeah.
All right, so, 3/4 of an inch.
I wonder if you don't have to make a four-sided box. I mean, I kind of agree with Joe in terms of it won't really look like a gutter because it will be scribed, right? You would never actually run water across the siding of your house. But is there a way for the carpenter to simply kind of have two little pieces of wood that don't actually meet in the back, make it look like it's a box? I don't think anyone will ever actually able to see to actually see the ductwork, right?
So you're talking about three sides.
Well, I'm talking about three and like just a little piece on each side.
Too big, yeah. And just so, yeah.
Yeah,
So that it
Just-
appears from
comes
the
in a little bit.
outside as if there's a fourth piece, but that you're not actually making a fourth piece, and then maybe you don't have to push out so far. I mean, obviously, that's
That's a great
That's-
solution.
yeah,
that's
Yeah, no, yeah.
your job, not mine. But it's just an idea, because I do think, I mean, it's not the end of the world to me if
I've
that is
actually
scribed.
seen those. I wonder if you look closer at some of the ones on Fruit Street a little bit closer, that some of them aren't like that.
Well, a lot of them have, boxes, but they're on spacers. There's like a spacer block.
Yeah.
But this would just be, what you're suggesting, right, is just having like a little,
Like a faux,
Little lip.
Yeah, little lip.
faux little cover. I don't know
Yeah,
how others
we would
feel
need
about
it
that.
anyway to get, for the piping to come out and get into the gutter or anything. So you'd have to have some openings there within that backside. So if it's just straight up the side, we wouldn't have to cut in those.
Right, just, I mean, obviously, that's needs
Yeah.
and methods for you to figure out, which
No, I
is
know.
the easier thing to
Okay.
construct, but anyway.
So you're really talking, Terry, you're really talking about this design, except that it sits proud of the house.
There's got like a.
Yeah, that's what Andy got it.
That's it.
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah,
So that you actually have a joint that you can see from the side,
it's like mounted. It's like a mounting piece.
Yeah.
and then it would also give you that joint,
Can Leslie see that?
unless you were.
Yeah, I can see it.
Hanging the miter them, which.
This is just pushing out a tiny bit, of course, right?
Yeah.
Because- Yeah.
Yeah, about 3/4 inch.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Depending on how they build it. typically.
Yeah, I
All
mean,
right.
between Sidvert and my builder, I'm very confident that it will look original. I mean, my builder is Larry Chase, and he does all of the antiques in town, so he's spot on.
Stephanie, Jimmy?
Yeah, I actually, I think that's a really good suggestion for the box. I have a question, Andy, if you could go back to the slide which shows the current, how it is currently.
Do that one right there, sure.
So I see two conduits running down the siding.
Yeah.
And one of them is sort of angled, and I guess my question is, when I see the solution, it looks like both of those
We've moved
ducts,
together.
you are moving.
Yeah, they're moving together into one conduit, into one
Okay,
box.
Into one box, so
Correct.
they will fit,
Yeah.
because, so there is some movement of
Yeah.
the actual conduits, okay.
That cover will be taken off, and the actual line sets themselves are much narrower in diameter, so you
Okay.
can jam them closer
Yeah,
together.
up together, okay.
You will have two gutters right next to each other on the corner, which, you know, is a, but I don't know I don't think there's a solution to that.
And I have two, I'm number 8 next door. and
There are a few others that have.
I've got
Yeah.
two aluminum gutters next to each other. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get them.
So I don't know how we wanna,
Do we want to address the one in the back?
well, I'm just gonna say, are we all in agreement on that by, with the amendment, the changes we talked about here, that we're okay with encasing the front? Okay, so then there's the issue of the back. I'll voice my opinion as a neighbor that probably sees this more than anybody. You know, I don't think I think it's, the cherry tree does bloom and, really covers that for much of the year as was stated earlier. You know, if this were proposed initially like this, I probably would, have some issues with it, but I think it's minimally, visible, and doesn't necessarily destroy the character of the neighborhood. That's just my opinion, so I'm inclined to, say that's okay. Anybody, any other comments?
Yeah, I'm still a little concerned about that. Andy, can you blow that up so we can take a look at the back?
The back, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is visible from the street.
Yeah, it is. That's my car, I can see.
So, yeah, well, I mean, if you're walking up and down the sidewalk,
Yeah.
and that's the street.
If
I
you're
mean,
looking-
these photographs have been taken from across the street.
Exactly.
They're not from right there.
Yeah, no, I've got one that's taken this morning right from my
There's one
driveway.
taken on that side of the street as well.
I think there is too.
Yeah, we took pictures
I'm
of both
just-
sides of the house, so we could have the
I'm
conversation, right? So
concerned.
I think that it is screened by that tree though, as Joe suggested, as the chair suggested, you know, either in bloom or not in bloom, you know, 10 months of the year, 9 months of the year. And you have to stop and look back to see it. So if you're walking by, I don't think it's something that's, you know, really obvious.
Unless you're walking the other way up the street.
Well, if you're walking the other way up the street, you can't see it at all,
Yes, they
so.
are.
No, that's what I'm saying, is that if you're walking past the chair's house to this house, you can see it.
Can you go to the next photo, please, Andy?
Yeah, that's-
Yeah, no, you really don't see it.
And I was walking this many times and you can see it right from the end of my driveway. But then you just pass to the sort of Leslie's driveway and you can't see it at all. So I mean, it's really
A brief encounter.
a brief encounter.
I guess I would say you've come up with such an elegant solution for the front, and it feels both elegant and simple, I think. And I just wonder why we couldn't just apply that to the back one too, recognizing it is not that visible. But, you know, when the tree's not in bloom and in the winter, and it just feels like if you're gonna do that front one, you've already developed this plan, could we not do the back one too?
Because we don't think, we think that your regulations don't require it, frankly. I mean, it's not really visible from the public way, as I think the brief encounter is
Well,
a
I
good.
think it's a matter of how you describe visible, because absolutely, I think it's visible from a public way.
For a moment in time,
Correct.
right?
But it doesn't say in the regulations visible for more than a moment in time.
Right.
So I just think it's, you know, it's just a real simple solution. It's really elegant.
Well, it's not as simple, I mean, you have to think it's simple because it looks simple, right? It looks like a box. But it's not inexpensive and it does not time consuming to move the conduits and build what we have to build. And that's at an angle for a particular reason, where it is, right? And so that all has to be changed. It's not that simple, right? So yes, it looks like a simple solution because we've moved the two conduits together and we put them in this simple box, but it's not that easy.
I still personally think it's visible and that the regulations say visible and that they don't, there's no qualifications about the aspects of visibility. So
No.
personally, I would like to see that back when treated in a similar way.
Well, just a minute, okay, now you can.
My question is, why is it curved? Is there a window below, in the back, is there a window below it that requires it to be curved?
Yes, there's actually a door that it has to go around. There's,
Okay.
yeah, there's a door down below that comes out to the backyard. And this particular spot is up in that upper bedroom, the top, and then it has to cut over in order to clear that door. And light and whatever back there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that we should distinguish, or I like to distinguish between visible from the public way. And I agree with you, it is visible from the public way, but I think then, in addition, we need to use our judgment, right? We're not saying anything that's visible from the public way is disapproved. We're saying, we have to, I think we as a commission need to use our judgment and ask ourselves, is it, so egregious that it's changing and hurting the character of the historic district? And I don't think it is, personally. But Stephanie,
Well, you know, I agree with Tara, it would be better, if that had the same treatment as the conduits, which are right there on the street. I understand what you're saying, that it's, you know, I mean, when you look at it this way, it is, you know, it is a very modern, that's a very modern thing you see. So, you know, it is visible and it looks very modern and weird because it's skewed. If it were straight in the first
Yeah.
place, you might mistake it for a gutter at that
Mhm.
distance,
Mhm.
so.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things about, this type of change is it is, reversible. You know, and that's actually, it's not in the guidelines, but it's in the Secretary of Interior guidelines, and that's, you can sort of say, okay, well, can this be reversed in the future? When some other new kind of HVAC system comes along, is this easily reversible? And I would guess it is.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it is.
So, is there any further discussion? Does anyone want to move for approval?
I'll move for approval.
Second? I'll second it. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor of granting the certificate? Jim?
Yes.
I'll say yes. Sorry,
No,
Stephanie?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So it passes 3-1. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Apologies, can I second that motion?
that motion was seconded by, Joe.
After Joe.
Yeah, by
Joe.
Made
Oh,
by
I made-
Jim, seconded by
Okay,
Joe.
thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're taking notes too? That's good.
Yeah, no, that's
Good.
good.
All right.
Just fine.
Okay, thank you all. Let's move on to the next one. We can either do the 20 Fruit Street now, or we can, do, since Beth's here, we can do,
Well, Casey's here.
what's that?
Casey's here too for 20.
Oh, Casey's here, yeah, okay. All right, let's take them in order then. This is 20 Fruit Street, and we're here, because last time we, determined that the fencing that's proposed on the property is, subject to our jurisdiction. And since then, they've applied for an application for a certificate of appropriateness for the same exact fencing.
And I'm recusing myself.
Okay. Anything to add?
And you folks were just asking about the details of the gate, and so I have a diagram of the gate.
Ooh,
Thank you.
Sorry, do you mind just clarifying, is this open, uploaded to OpenGov or is it not there yet? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Terrific.
Very nice.
That's how you described it. But yes, I'm not shocked.
That is correct, yes.
No, but this is how you described it,
Yes.
at the last meeting. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other, anything?
I mean, the rest of it was, we talked about last week, and
You
it's
talked.
gonna be the same style as the back fence.
Right. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the application for the fence at 20 Fruit Street.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It
So I can't
passes.
vote.
Passes 3-0, with our recusing yourself on that one. Okay. So we'll get the certificate out to you probably next week. All right.
And did you want this uploaded or?
We'll upload it tomorrow. It's fine. We can take care of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we had a copy for the record. So thank you.
Excellent. All right, 98, we had this certificate for this application is, and you can add, but it is for the little bit of fence, white fence that's within the public way, plus the old Wolf Tavern iron fence that is gonna go in front of the old Mint building. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you wanna add anything or go through your presentation or?
Let me know if you want me to pull up anything that you.
If you don't mind, I didn't, the last time I met with this group, there was no
Yeah.
AV, or I would have brought some visuals. I like to dazzle with historic photos. So, I mean, obviously, you all know where. what
This
we're
was,
looking at.
this was the sketch used in the prior meeting where we're talking about the other two sections of fencing.
Right,
So, yeah.
so it's just that back portion that's right next to the, no, it's the blue, that little,
Well,
Blue
I-
piece.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to it's probably good that we're having this discussion. I just to distinguish because the last time you had talked about this section.
yeah, that
Right.
section is, I think is.
That's
That's
is not
approved.
within the,
That we,
Right, was
Oh,
not
Correct.
subject to, right? This one was,
yeah,
right?
Correct.
And then we had, right, so we're here,
and then,
and then we had the separate piece, which was this one.
correct.
Yeah.
right, which, should we just separate that, Andy, into two different, it feels like two different
Yeah, so I just wanted
discussions.
to,
It's one application now, but can you guys separate it?
and if I could, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll defer to the commission members, but my understanding was at the last meeting, that you, because of the discussion you had at the last meeting, the certificate that was coming out of that discussion was actually a determination that this portion was not subject to, but
Correct,
this
Correct.
one
Correct.
was.
Correct.
correct.
Which leads to sort of the question of approval after that, of approval of the work involved here, as well as we know, the work here.
Right.
So, so those two pieces,
So
essentially.
yellow is kind of an add-on, they were kind of merged into one.
Right, that was.
One new,
Yeah.
one new application.
We were anticipating hearing the Perkins piece at this meeting. So it was-
Right, and I apologize, I had had a suggestion to Bethany and somewhere like that, to try to, as much as possible for her own efficiency, everyone else's, just, if possible, to combine them together. Obviously, it may not be possible in terms of timing, but I had just made a suggestion that if possible, where we could, efficiency of a hearing night or review of something, to just do it together, but obviously it's dependent on multiple factors.
Does anyone object with having it be heard together?
I don't object to it being heard together tonight, but I think we should discuss it as two separate
Yes,
components because they
Yes,
are,
that's a
it
good
is
idea.
to me very distinct
Correct.
and one very clear cut and the other, I feel like I need more information.
Well, let's,
Okay.
okay, then let's
So
first,
maybe we can just do the little piece of wooden fence.
let's first discuss the little piece of wooden fence, which, is basically matching the other fence, the other
Yes,
piece.
it's 24 feet of board fence.
Right.
I found all the paperwork for that. It was put up in 1991 apparently.
Oh,
And then we had a fight with the contractor over whether we were gonna pay the full bill. But anyway, that was an interesting read. And it's obviously collapsing. It is not exactly a match to the rear fence, but it will be replaced to match not only the rear fence, but of course that also the piece that you decided was not applicable, it will be replaced according to the 1936 plan.
I think you said the board width was a little bit different,
The
right?
board width is a little different and the caps are a little different here, but it's all in the HABs drawings, which is gorgeous
Yeah.
and fabulous. So,
Okay.
it will be consistent with the historical
Right.
record.
So any questions, to the applicant on that issue?
Now, do you want a separate motion?
I don't think,
For
I don't think, since it's set up, we can't do a separate motion, I don't think. I think we
We
have
did
to,
that last time.
Well, I think it'd be fine for your motion purposes. I think we'd want to make sure in the certificate, the language is clear as to what's being considered.
Okay.
As long as you're very clear about what is being approved or not approved, or is
Yeah,
subject to the ordinance or
okay.
not, I think, yeah.
I mean, it's paperwork in your office, that would be,
Yeah.
I'd rather just
Sure.
approve it and then move on to the next one.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
Wait, can I just ask one more question? I just want to clarify, so it's gonna have the rounded top?
Yeah.
And no posts that extend above?
Correct. It's
Great.
gonna look exactly the same as the
Perfect.
fence that
Yeah,
is in the
I
backyard,
just want to make sure that I was
which is
clear on
what
that.
should have been done when
Yeah.
it was replaced before, but. And it would
okay,
get,
so do I hear a motion? to
So
approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the application 98 Fruit Street for the wooden fence.
Okay,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So it passes unanimously. All right, so now we're considering
The iron fence.
the iron fence. Do you want to say, give a little history about that and how?
Sure, I wish I could give you more history about it. So this was in the carriage barn when I arrived, and I was told that it had been in front of the Perkins building, because obviously it's not safe. There's a sheer cliff into trash cans right there. And Perkins has been used sporadically, I think, for exhibitions and various meetings and things since I've been there, since 2021. But there had been, when I got there was just a chain that was hanging between the granite posts, just to keep people from falling into the trash cans. And then when we did, we've done considerable work at Perkins installing all of the storage systems on all 3 floors. And so that brought up the conversation of, well, we should put that, because those granite piers were placed where they were placed in order to accommodate those fence panels. They're exactly the right size, and the fasteners were already there. So what I was told is that they were there and then they were taken down because they were they needed some work. They were rusty. And so I, in consultation with various other people, just said, well, do you think we could get those, in better shape and put them back up? So they were sent out to a wrought iron specialist to see if they were, if they were stable and safe. And it just sort of, and then I went away. And then, they had done the work, they had stabilized. I mean, they actually are in really remarkably good condition. And so they were powder coated and then they came in to make sure they still fit the fasteners basically.
Mhm.
And that was when this photograph was taken. So it was a little bit of a preliminary, obviously went further than I thought it was going to, but the plan was to then sort of try to figure out if there are any photos of it in place. Because, but I have not found any. I was going on what I was told when I took the job and
Yep.
asked about those panels. They are from the front of the Wolf Tavern. So they are, which is kind of cool, and they are from the community, and it is an unsafe space. So I would say, it would be a shame not to use them since they're there. They are preserved and they fit the space. The posts were installed to fit those panels, but, again, this is not how I would have gone about this had I been in town.
Right. Okay, any comment, question?
So I think you've got a picture up here of the Wolf Tavern
Yeah.
showing,
Showing that.
maybe we see that just a minute, because I do have a question about the railings. And so
To the right.
those railings are where? Right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Neat, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think the question was, and it's great to have that artifact. The question was whether those were 20th century or, do you know anything about their history other than that they are on
I mean, yeah, they are late 19th. You see them for the first time in late 19th century photographs. There's a wooden, there's wooden fence there. I can't tell you when it changed from, you know, a wood
From wood
trim on the-
pickets to,
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know how, you know, I wish I had more information other than just what I was told when I came in. Obviously, it was never in front of Perkins, was never intended to be in front of Perkins historically, but
yeah,
you know, Perkins, when we acquired it, had just a straight slope to the doors, and that, with the cutting in of the driveway and that placement, it really makes an incredibly unsafe entrance to that building, so.
Yep.
I think at that point that, I don't know if somebody had, you know, the way things happen in the group, I don't know if somebody had them in the basement and said, oh, these will be great, they're from the Wolf Tavern, and then, you know, these things rolled on, but, I have asked if anyone has pictures of them in place, and nobody else seems to have pictures of that front, with or without them,
mhm.
you know, for the last 10 years, so I'm not sure.
So I
would
maybe, so Bethany, I did a little, you know, Google research, so who knows how accurate that is, and I put together a little thing, and I would have loved to share it with you before this commission, but then, before this meeting, but of course, now that, you know, was before us, it wasn't appropriate for me to do so, but, so basically, I found another photo, which, is nice, it's at the BPL, and it looks like it's about the same date, but it's a different photo, because it's different cars. And this photograph at the Boston Public Library has this very specific date of October 24th, 1929 on it. I don't know where they got that, I didn't dig into like whose photograph collection this was and how they knew that. And then I sort of went back, and there's a digital photograph in a collection of the New York Historical Society, which is 1898, which shows the wooden still there. And then in your collection is actually a photograph, which we have a date of June 26, 1901, which is still got it. And then we get to the less convincing date things, in which you have an eBay postcard marked 1915 that still has the wooden, and then a 1925 postcard, which has the metal. So I don't know, that was my little idea, that I think that it was sometime between 1915 and 1925. That's answering your question of
Yeah.
when that metal was
Well, I think that
installed.
came up last time.
Yeah.
When we saw those.
I'm happy to give
Yeah, no, I'd
to you,
love
but
to- I'd love to see
somebody's
that.
just.
I wasn't
eBay
able to, in
postcard.
our collection, I wasn't able to. find
So-
anything that was
It's
that-
weirdly, it came up, not on your website, but somebody referencing a photo in your collection, so I'll share. I think I copied the, link for you, so.
So Jackie, kind of, I'm not quite sure, where you're going with that. Are you saying because it's 20th century, it's not appropriate, or?
I didn't say anything,
No, no, I know.
I'm just answering Jim's question of when
Oh,
do we think
okay.
it appeared in front of
Right.
Wolf Tavern, and
Okay.
so just to get a date on the metal components, that I think it's probably like, you know, probably circa 1920.
Yeah,
You know,
1920,
like Colonial
1921.
Bible, and just an update of the tavern.
It's a little art deco, I think.
It's a little Art Deco, interesting, yeah. So one question that I had, and you know, Bethany, I'm sure you don't actually know the answer to this yet, and is, you know, would this fence meet the code requirement that you need? Because it's pretty specific now about like the space of gaps and things, and you know, maybe that's something you still need to find out from the building.
Well, it meets the height requirement, which is 42 inches,
Mhm.
so it does meet that. I don't know, because it's not.
I think the only thing I would have a question about is maybe the circle in the middle. Everything else, I have no question really in my mind about the rest of it.
Toddler, like, crawl
Mhm.
through there.
And again, I'll defer to the building commissioner, but I'm gonna guess there's not a problem there, but I.
Yeah, you know, again, I I sort of inherited this as a done deal in my mind, so, you know, I didn't look as far into it. I did very quickly measure it to at least know that it was, you know, high enough to meet. But again, that's for a deck, so this is not strictly speaking a deck, I mean, and it's a historic artifact, so I don't know if that sort of changes how we would look at it.
I don't know,
Yeah,
I don't think that changes building code, right? Unless,
No, it can.
if it's not in its original location.
Ooh,
I would leave that
Yeah,
up to
so
the
leave that to the
building
building.
inspector to
Okay.
look at that complicated code.
yeah.
If you were parsing that mighty thin.
Right.
Yeah.
I can promise you that the one, you know, length of, you know, Home Depot chain that was slung over there when I came in.
I can reach out to, check with the building inspector and commissioner tomorrow, but I would have surmised that's probably not an issue, but at the same time, because you're the design, and if there is an issue there, we find out the building commissioner, obviously circle back here. But, I would not anticipate in context here an issue with that. So, like Stephanie said, I think it's reasonable for the building commissioner to determine that this is acceptable.
So, I mean, I will say it's not my favorite idea. I'm not gonna say no, but it's not my favorite idea. It's a architectural element from another building. There isn't any real evidence it was ever in front of the Mint or Perkins building. And, there is a real consistency to Fruit Street, and I think that was part of what inspired the local historic district, was this real consistency. Even the, Victorian infill building was built to look like a federal building. So it's not my favorite idea. I'm not saying, no, I'm gonna vote no, I don't like, but I just do think it warrants some conversation around, using something from another location in this location, and I appreciate that it was like already there and you inherited it, and I'm also totally appreciate that there's a cost aspect because it's existing and you put some money into fixing it up. But I don't know, I just would like there to be a little conversation about how we feel about that
Well,
kind of relocation of
The
something.
relocation issue, to me, if it were relocated in any other house in the neighborhood, I might have more of a problem with it. The fact that it's in the Museum of Old Newbury, which is, set up to, in part, have artifacts from Old Newbury. What could be better? I think it's less obtrusive than any kind of a wooden picket fence. It kind of, you can see through to see the brick behind it, which I really like. It doesn't jump out at me. It's set back from the street. There are design guidelines regarding fencing, but they basically speak to curbside fencing or front of the house fencing and not this kind of fencing. So I don't think it really it comes under that purview. So I'm inclined I'd be inclined to support it.
So I was delighted to read that there was something left from Wolf Tavern.
Oh, there's so
Beside-
many things left from Wolf's Tavern.
I was gonna say, besides, someone stopped me in church to say she had a load of bricks from it, so, or they built their, patio out of the bricks, something
Yeah.
like that.
What of that?
So are you going to, within the structure of the museum, where you, identify exhibits, are you gonna put some kind of something that says, oh, by the way, if you look out this window, those are fences from?
Absolutely. In fact, we have a display in the lecture hall of Wolf Tavern artifacts. We have the Wolf Tavern sign. It is prominent in our, every program we do has some connection to that room where that sign is. And we have a pretty heavy, this is not, I'm not proud of this, but in both bathrooms, we were just given a sort of modern, hilarious decoupage and sort of put together of artifacts, which they tore out of Wolf Tavern books, which I'm not super excited about, but that's how it arrived.
Okay.
It came from a local business. So anyway, I'm just saying there is a pretty strong Wolf Tavern presence in the public spaces in the museum at present. So I certainly think we would refer to this as being part of that interpretation. I will say, I did not give the design of it any particular consideration. If I was designing from scratch, I'd be asking for wrought iron that matches the front fence, but my biggest concern is safety, because we've had people out there, you know,
Mhm.
moving artifacts, and it's just not safe. It's a fairly, it's a fairly obvious safety concern for me.
And you've only got about 3 feet between the building and the
Yeah,
fence.
it's really,
not-
I'm not sure how those decisions were made,
Yeah,
but, it's very narrow.
If I could, I don't know if it's necessarily new information, but I just wanted to bolster, I think, or agree with what Joe had offered earlier. I agree with the notion of it. It's from another historic location in Newburyport. Again, for you, it's your expertise as a commission, your jurisdiction, but I also like the fact that it, because it's wrought iron as opposed to a solid fence, you're seeing the building facade as much as possible. And the fact that it's set back, I think is a lesser concern about, the historic continuity, whether it's sort of a white fence or whatnot. So, to me, actually, just the transparency part of it to me is wonderful, as well as the fact that I think it's from the Wolf Tavern.
Yeah, so, I agree with all of that. I agree with Tara. When I first saw it, I found it jarring because it's obviously not federal era. But now that I know what it is, I think it's pretty cool. And that because it's installed at a museum site where you can educate people about why it looks that way and not the way other fences might look. If it were picked up in a junkyard and had nothing to do with the report, I'd be like, hey, guys.
There's some chance it was, but I didn't say that out loud, but.
But it's a cool story and I'm beginning to like it now.
Yeah.
It's growing on you.
and I
Don't bring
find-
toddlers over.
And I signed up for one of your May walking tours, so I hope that whoever is the guide points that out. As
They
you're
will.
walking down First Street.
They always stop it, he always stops and looks down that alley.
I mean, it is already that you have to deal with a situation that's not ideal, right? That where decisions were made to lower that driveway and to create this, because that building used to be on grade,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And, this previous members of this commission allowed that, so you've already got this challenge of this,
Yeah, I'm
like,
not sure that given the row of trash cans that you're looking
I
at down
know.
that alley,
Yeah.
that we can get too persnickety about what's behind.
I agree. Yeah.
Because there's no way to have that be the prominent thing you see. I just don't want people falling into those trash cans.
Okay.
so
now-
Joe, are we looking to, extend the certificate of appropriateness now to include the iron fence?
well, do we want to, sorry to interrupt, but you didn't get to answer, but do we want to maybe can we vote yes on the wood and continue this until Bethany can get her answers about whether she's got a code situation or
We
not?
already voted on the wood.
Yeah, we already voted on the
We're
wood,
already
so that's,
voting.
Right.
that's passed. So
But it's in one thing, so can we continue just this?
I don't think it's our jurisdiction to really comment on code.
Right, I
So
think
we
if we
can
think
have
it's
it-
appropriate for the,
Yeah.
for
But
the
she'll
historic
she'll
district.
need to.
And then Greg
Okay.
says, oh, no.
Yeah, if we find out from the building office tomorrow, it's an issue, we'll have to circle back. Bethany and I will be here and, walk through, this matter. If not, then Bethany will be able to proceed and there won't be an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
All right,
So can I have a motion to
so moved.
approve the
To
certificate
approve the certificate
for the
for the iron
iron
fence.
fence? I'll second it.
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right, let's keep moving here.
So do you want to go back to?
Well, let me
Item
just kind
four.
of, mention, Andy indicated to me, before the meeting that, the document review isn't ready from his end yet, so we'll defer that to a future meeting.
During our next meeting.
For
And
next meeting.
you'll be away though.
No, I'll be back. I
You'll be
won't
back.
able
Oh,
to-
okay.
I won't be able to do the agendas and stuff.
Okay.
So you would be getting, sort of compile any sort of markup, document back to you in advance of the meeting and then we discuss it at that meeting.
Perfect.
Okay, correspondence and communications, there are two I want to report on. One is a text exchange I had with the owner of number 1012, Colin Murphy.
Mhm.
He said on April 9th that he was speaking with Bill Perry, who's his general contractor. He said he's gonna knock up a sketch and a rough idea of the cost. This is to enclose the It's a new event, and he says it's, the delay is that he cannot find someone with the capability to undertake this project. He further said, a little bit later that he has any further word. Bill his contractor doesn't quite know who might do that work, and he opined that there's not sufficient demand for this kind of work to guarantee consistent results. So I think he is, will, may come before us with some sketches, but I think he's saying that he can't find anybody who's sufficiently capable to do the work.
This is to build a box and to then,
And face it with
and
brick
face it
veneer.
with brick veneer.
Attach the wood to the, yeah, attach the,
That doesn't
so I think what,
seem
so I think,
too complicated.
so I think the response should be, he needs to come in here and talk to us about this.
Right, right,
Yeah.
All right, and he can bring Bill with him.
yeah.
I think that might be great, so I can reach out to him before I go and. just
And I'm
suggest-
sorry, we would be aiming for this on the next agenda, or,
Yeah.
okay, got
Yeah,
it.
and I don't think he's at the stage where he'd be applying for a certificate. I think it would be,
Informal,
it would just be a formal discussion to update us where we are, because I mean, he doesn't really have
right.
enough information to.
Right, I
apply.
think, defer to you, if you're reaching out, I think if we will circle back and confirm with Diane, she can make sure it's on the agenda as a discussion, an informal discussion item, if you will.
Okay,
And if there's anything he wants to share, he could forward that our way, and that we can get it to you, at least it's posted on the website, even if it's not a filing on OpenGov. It'll
Yeah.
be materials that you can look at, if there's anything that he wants to offer, we can have it there as well.
Okay.
So.
you may have to follow up with some of this if I'm out of town. Any other questions on that one? The other issue is just before the meeting, I got a phone call from Chris Marquette, number 2,
Mhm.
Fruit, and he wanted to alert us to an issue. He had the electric company come out, they're putting in new power to his house for the, for the addition and for, he was basically upgrading the service. They are running wires from the utility lines down along the side of the house, down to the junction box, down to the electrical box, panel box, and then into the house, just as it was before. But before, the wires were not necessarily enclosed, what he said, that were running down the house to the box. This time they enclosed them, because they per code, in a gray conduit box. Like I have one now, it's painted white.
Yeah,
Everybody has one. And he just wanted to alert us that he will paint his to match the color of the house. But that it's a little different from what and the panel box is a little bit bigger too, from what
sure it is.
we approved back in the fall. So he said if there was any problems, he would come in and talk to us about it, but I'm not quite sure there's anything we can really do.
Is there a
Sure.
process, Andy, for him to actually, submit a couple photos and
Now, here's the.
send a letter, and then we have something on file, right? Obviously, we can't, they gotta put whatever conduit over
Yeah,
the
this is
electrical they have to
it's a
put.
code issue. I
Right,
mean, it's not
exactly.
really our,
So is it just like a notification? Like, I get that he sent you an email, but it feels like it should be a little more formal
Oh, he
than
didn't
an
send me
email
an
to
email.
Joe.
That's the picture of it.
But you took that picture.
No, he took it and sent it to me.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, can we have like a letter?
You want something forwarded to the city, so there's in the city's records, there's something that closes.
Yeah, or I mean, I guess we could, just do it.
It's
in-
important.
Does the certificate of applicability require a fee?
The certificate of applicability, I don't believe does.
So it could just be that.
Yeah. And then you've got something on the.
I think
Yeah,
we're,
you have to file, you have to pay to file your
Yeah,
certificate.
the certificate of- I think, I
I,
have to double check, I think it's just the review, not the, but I'll take a check on that.
this is a code issue.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Totally.
just when I put gas into the house.
But I just,
And it's out of our, it's out of our
I'm not
wheelhouse.
quite
yes,
sure we-
but, so you don't think we need to
I
like
did-
make note of it at all?
I
So
did
that if
not.
somebody goes back and looks at that certificate to say, were they, at the end, were they in compliance? Just
No,
to have
I-
the
no,
Well, here's
notation.
what I think, I mean, I think that we should have in the record, his agreement that he's gonna paint it to match the color of the house. I mean, cause
That would
it's
be-
gray right now, that looks ugly.
Right.
But I don't think we have any choice. I mean, it says in the design guidelines, wires should be buried underground, that's
Right.
not practical, or should be minimized to the extent.
And we also don't have any control over house color.
Yeah, we don't.
Correct, that's correct.
So I mean,
Yeah,
So it's,
that's
so I
right.
guess it's
Yeah.
kind of nice of him to say he's gonna paint it, but we don't have
Or
any
he can
control.
paint his house gray.
gloss.
Yeah,
I mean, we could just make a note in the correspondence and that sits
Yeah.
here, that's fine.
yeah, is that okay?
That's fine.
Just wanted to,
If it's in the minutes, then.
Yeah.
That's the record, that would be the record.
all right. New business, Eric, do you want to say anything about your,
I'm exhausted by doing meeting minutes. So I recognize, actually, my question to you, Andy, was not like the extent of the minute, is like, was there some formal thing in which I'm supposed to say on the minutes? There is a recording of this and it exists here at a permalink.
No obligation to do that. I mean, we keep the report, we basically take the recordings, we put them on a YouTube channel and then link them to the city website, so they're there.
Okay,
But there's no requirement to
Okay.
put in the minutes that,
Okay.
you're certainly welcome to put
I
something,
mean, I
but there's no.
put in and Diane can look at the format that I did, and she can switch it up, because I just put in that the meeting was hybrid, and I
Yeah,
kind
and-
of put in if somebody was a remote attendee. so she
yeah,
can
that's
look
great.
at
I mean,
that.
like I said, I mean, the most important things, obviously, you definitely want to keep track of any substantive motions, votes, motions, who made them, seconded, the votes that were taken, who voted yes, no. The basic, brief substantive comments that were made by folks on any particular matter that may, just in case there's any questions about procedural things or, substantive what we discuss. But very brief, I don't, I'm a big believer in brevity and sort of simplicity and, so I think that's.
So
enough.
I totally get that, but I will just say, I can't bring myself to do it, because you're listening to the recording and you're like, somebody made a point, and then this person made a point, and so to actually, and I have to say, Joe, when I first started doing it, and when we were actually discussing them by email ahead of time, I would put in a discussion about this ensued, and then I would get back all this comment, but I said this, and then I said
Right.
that, and then you said.
Right.
So I recognize they're way too detailed. But I just don't really know how to cut them, but even that will take time. So I'm just letting y'all know, this is a much bigger time burden than I had anticipated, that these minutes took me about 4 hours to put together.
I would add to that,
So, and I know you're gonna get me somebody,
well,
but it's
I'm trying.
not gonna be till July, right?
But yeah, I wouldn't.
So I just, like, I don't wanna, do I have to like formally resign my clerk post? I just need some help, I need some help. And then it's the problem of I can't do a draft and send it around to people for comments, because that's violating open meeting.
Well,
So-
I mean, they're always reviewed by board anyway, so they're always draft until that point, so I would be making it very clear to anybody, that's just draft until you've reviewed it, it's not the, agreed upon minutes in the meeting until the board looked at it, so. I'm not as more concerned about that, obviously, we're happy to talk about, you could have been shared if there's something that you had a question about beforehand, but I think generally speaking, I think that's normal procedure and fine.
So other boards are circulating these minutes. And
Yeah,
making
They get
edits.
from the note taker the draft minutes,
And they're-
and then the members come to the meeting and they say if they have any particular edits or current concerns about
Okay,
anything.
but they're
that's in
not
there.
doing it on email.
No,
they're not,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they do it as a body, yeah.
Anyway, I just would love to have somebody saying, oh, I'll do it for a month for you, Tara, or I'll do it for 2 months, so I just put that out there.
Well,
We could appoint Mark.
I can't do 2 jobs,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, that you can't help yourself in making them so, like, they're really good minutes. They don't have to be as good as you make them. I understand what you're saying, you just can't help it.
But I would try for this one. Okay, Lisa Mead made a presentation. Then we voted.
Presentation is,
Right, I don't
Well,
have to
that's
talk about
about it.
anything she says,
Yeah.
because it's on
I
file.
was gonna say, you can reference, you can just reference the,
Okay,
And
so
it's in her letter.
I'm getting nowhere with this.
I mean, to Stephanie's point, all the detail that you're looking for here really will be in the recording, so.
Yes, that's a new thing actually though for
yeah.
us, like,
Yeah.
we didn't
Right.
used to have recorded
Yeah.
meetings, so that is definitely a help.
okay, anything else about that? Any other new business? Okay, motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. 8:05.